Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my silent level Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for May 2020. In the past, I've done the Silent Swordsman and the Silent Magician deck profiles, and a lot of you have been requesting an update to the decks, but I thought this time around I'd add a twist and combine both of the decks together, focusing on the level up aspect of both of the decks and just being able to get out the Silent Swordsman and Silent Magician, two very powerful monsters to assist with the different plays you can do with the deck, and then summoning out the boss monsters you have for the decks, which are your Silent Magician level 8 and your Silent Swordsman level 7. Both cards that can just stop your opponent's spell activations and then just be very strong boss monsters on the field altogether also. It's a really fun deck. I'm happy with the results and just the overall support. Hopefully maybe down the road we can get some more support to assist with both of these decks together and separately. But until then, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Silent level support, I'm running 3 Silent Paladin. This card works great for both of the decks. Being a fairy monster, you can't use it for its special summon, but you still have the option to search out the cards with your Silent Paladin. Then this card is normal summon. You can add 1 Silent Swordsman level 3 or Silent Magician level 4 from your deck to your hand. During either player's turn, when a spell card is activated that targets exactly 1 monster you control and no other cards, you can negate the activation. The effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field, and if this card is destroyed by battle or if this face up card in its owner's control is destroyed by a card effect, you can target 1 light level monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So you have great recycle power with this card, which just helps overall, being the recycle power from the graveyard and the overall search for your main monsters you want for this deck. With this card makes for a great card you definitely need to run 3 of in the deck. The only weakness I would say of this card is the fact that it is a fairy monster, not a warrior or a magician, but I would say it would greatly benefit one silent deck over the other if it was either of it. But still, being a light monster makes up for some of the other plays we'll get to in just a bit. For the Silent Swordsman cards for the deck, I'm running 3 Silent Swordsman. This is your main card you definitely do want to summon out. It's just a very strong boss monster, which helps to get out your main Silent Swordsman, which is Silent Swordsman level 7. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from the hand by attributing 1 warrior type monster and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn during the standby phase, this card gains 500 attack, and once per turn during either player's turn when a spell card is activated, you can negate the activation, and this card is destroyed by battle or in its owner's control, destroyed by an opponent's card effect. You can special summon 1 Silent Swordsman monster from your hand or deck, except for Silent Swordsman, ignoring its summoning conditions. So your main go-to card with this one is obviously Silent Swordsman level 7, and then just being able to boost its attack up continuously with its own effect, and then also just be able to use your Silent Sword Slash to make it even more powerful with this card. Just adds together for a true offensive power in the deck. Work together with Silent Magician. You have 2 different play styles that I tried to put together with the deck overall, and I'm very happy with the results. You just have 2 different level based decks working together to get out 2 different boss monsters in the deck all together, and Silent Swordsman definitely is one to just help shut down all your opponent's spell plays altogether. For the added support for the Silent Swordsman deck, I'm also running 3 Silent Swordsman level 3. During your opponent's, basically it negates your opponent's spell effects that target this card. During your standby phase, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to special summon 1 Silent Swordsman level 5 from your hand or deck. You cannot activate this effect the turn this card was summoned or flip face up, but most of the time, along with a level 3, just like to tribute it for your Silent Swordsman, which is a much better card to rely on since it has a spell negation, and not just one that would target your Silent Swordsman level 3 on the field, and then when it's destroyed, you can summon one of the other Silent Swordsmen from your deck onto the field or your hand, depending on which one you want to go for. So just having this option and the fact that it's searchable with other cards in the deck, including Silent Paladin, make it all the better. So 3 Swordsmen just help for the consistency to tribute out to get this card, since it can't be normal summoned by regular means. But for the other Silent Swordsman lineup, I'm running 2 Silent Swordsman level 5. It's just another option to special summon with your level 3 if you don't have Silent Swordsman in your hand, or just a special summon when your Silent Swordsman is destroyed if you don't have the level 7 option to rely on either. With this card, it also is unaffected by your opponent's spell effects. During your next standby phase, after this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to special summon one Silent Swordsman level 7 from your hand or deck. The special summon this way is a little more difficult. I like to rely on Silent Swordsman, but just having a more boss monster option to go up from level 3 if you don't have Silent Swordsman in your hand is still another great option to rely on, and making this card even more powerful with the same play being the Silent Sword Slash. Just goes for a 3,800 attack point monster also. It's unaffected by your opponent's spell effects, but not your own. And then to finish up the Silent Swordsman monsters, just one Silent Swordsman level 7. I'm only running one of this card for the fact that it is recyclable with your Silent Paladin. And once you get it, you don't really need the multiples of this card. You just need, the option for Silent Swordsman to special summon one Silent Swordsman monster from your hand or deck, and then use Paladin to recycle it. Once it's on the field, it cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summoned by this effect, and it cannot be special summoned by other ways. Negate all spell effects on the field. So remember that you don't have your spells when you use this card. It's going to negate all of them when you try to activate it, including your Silent Sword Slash, targeting that monster, and if it does, it'll negate this card. Also, you want to use it for more of your other Silent Swordsman cards you run in the deck. This one, just stopping your opponent's spells. Spells are a big part of all decks in the game currently, so having this card as that option to stop them is just an added bonus also. And now moving on to the Silent Magician part of the deck, I'm running 3 Silent Magician. It cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by tributing one spellcaster type monster, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card gains 500 attack for each card in your hand, and once returned during either player's turn, when a spell card is activated, you can negate the activation, and if this card is destroyed by battle or its owner's control destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one Silent Magician monster from your hand or deck, except for Silent Magician. So with this one, it's basically the exact same card as Silent Swordsman, just being more for the spellcaster aspect, and then also having a different way to boost up the attack aside from the 500 each standby phase. It gains it for each card in your hand. So if you have that hand built up, it just gets stronger and stronger with each card added, and then giving you the option to go what I would say one of the more powerful Silent Magician monsters, or just silent level monsters, being Silent Magician level 8. But having more spellcaster options to go into also, I run 3 Silent Magician level 4. Each time your opponent draws a card, place one spell counter on this card, max 5. This card gains 500 attack for each spell counter on it, and during your standby phase of your next turn, after this card is placed with 5 spell counters, you can send this card face up on the field with 5 spell counters on it to the graveyard to special summon one Silent Magician level 8 from your hand or deck. So a different way to use it, but still very, very good, I would say, for that option. But most of the time, you just want it for the tribute of your Silent Magician on the field also. I would say it's a much better way to get it, since it gives you the negation of a spell on the field also. And there's no level 6 or anything. We go straight to level 8 with this card. But I'm also running 2 Silent Magician level 8. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by Silent Magician level 4, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card is unaffected by your opponent's spell effects. It doesn't negate the spell effects that you want to rely on more for Silent Swordsman level 7, but just being able to use Silent Magician level 8, since it also has 3,500 attack points, just as a true card to go up against your opponent, I'd say it's the better option also. Plus, when this card's still on the field, you can still use your own spell effects. Your opponent can't, you target this card since it's not affected by spell effects, so they can still target it. They just won't be able to do anything to it. I actually went up against a Sky Striker deck when I was testing this, and they couldn't do anything. They relied mostly on their spell effects, and just being able to have this card on the field was enough for me to swing against their monsters and win the game, basically. And to finish off the monsters, I decided to go with 3 Honest, just as a good card, since all of the monsters that we run in the deck are light. So whether you have Silent Paladin on the field or any of the, silent level monsters, Honest just works as the hand trap to boost up their attack and go for your opponent, especially for some of the big numbers you can get with this deck also to rely on. I found it as the better option for sure in the deck as a whole. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Silent Sword Slash. You target one Silent Swordsman monster you control. That monster gains 1,500 attack and defense, and if it does, until the end of this turn, is unaffected by your opponent's card effects. This card's activation effect cannot be negated, and you can banish this card from your graveyard to add one Silent Swordsman monster from your deck to your hand. So just having that search option from the graveyard as an add bonus to go for our main Silent Swordsman monster, and then having the option to boost up one of our other Silent Swordsmen, being, most of the time you can't do level 7, remember that, but level 5, or level 3, just boosting up their attack, and it's not until the end of the turn or your opponent's turn. It's a permanent gain also, so that power is really going to help for all the different plays you can do. For the spell counterpart to Silent Sword Slash, I run 2 Silent Burning. It's not a power boost card like Silent Sword Slash. During the battle phase, if you control a Silent Magician monster and have more cards in your hand than your opponent, each player draws until they have 6 cards in their hand. This card's activation effect cannot be negated. You can banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 Silent Magician monster from your deck to your hand. So with this card, you're giving your opponent 6 cards. That's the one reason I don't like to run this at max 3. But also, just being able to control a Silent Magician level 4 on the field. If you go for the play, activate this card. If your opponent has 1 card in their hand and they draw until they have 6, that can put the 5 counters on your Silent Magician level 4 that you need, just boosting up its attack, potentially for that attack also, to go up against your opponent, but then giving you the counters you need just to, normally go into your Silent Magician level 8 can just help for that play right then and there also for this deck. But like I said, most of the time I just like to set it up in the graveyard also with cards like Foolish Burial Goods, so then I can, go for the banish effect to search out the Silent Magician monster I may need for the play also. And being a level deck, we definitely have to run the 3 level up. It just, you send one face up, level monster you control to the graveyard to special summon one monster from your hand or deck that is listed on that monster's text, ignoring its summoning condition. So you just have the option to level up with your monsters in this deck depending on what you need. Much faster using this card, so a great option for the deck for sure. And I also run 2 double summon. Now I like this one with Silent Paladin for the fact that when you summon Silent Paladin, you use its effect when it is normal summon to add 1 Silent Swordsman or Silent Magician from your deck to your hand. So then giving you that option for the search. Using your double summon means you can then normal summon that monster and have that card set up on the field to either go for an Exceed summon or just for the play you wanted to, since sometimes you'll just be 1 turn late using your Silent Paladin on the field with your other silent level monsters. I like double summon for that extra speed it adds to the deck in total. And I run 2 Foolish Burial Goods. This sets up the different, silent spells we run, whether it's Silent Burning or Silent Sword Slash, in the graveyard if we need that additional search. So altogether, Foolish Burial just acts as an additional search card in the deck for our different silent level monsters. And I also run 1 Reinforcements of the Army, which searches out our, Silent Swordsman or even our Silent Swordsman level 3, whichever one we need, just being that great search for it. And also 1 Monster Reborn to special summon resources back onto the field to use. And to finish off the main deck, I run 3 Call by the Grave, just another hand trap option. Now I know when you have Silent Swordsman level 7, this card doesn't work as well. So one option I thought of that you can try instead of this card is actually Royal Decree as a 3 of in the main deck, for the fact that if you set this card up instead of Call by the Grave as Royal Decree, if you have your Silent Swordsman level 7 on the field, then you can just shut down your opponent's spell and traps together, since, negate all spell effects on the field, and then Royal Decree shuts down all traps. Your opponent can only use monster effects, then they have to rely on those total, which depending on the type of deck you're going up against can really, put a damper in what play they want to go for also. But it's player preference at that point. If you want to go for the Call by the Grave, you can do it. If not, you can try the Royal Decree lineup instead for the deck. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, I run 1 Star Liege Paladinamo. Now, you need 2 level 4 light monsters to make it. So if you want to go for this option, you have plenty of different cards to go for the overlay of this card. Most of the extra deck is just situational if you have them. Most of the time, I just like to prefer going for the bigger level up plays in the deck. But, an extra deck is just there to be there if you need it. So the 1 Star Liege Paladinamo, the 1 Heroic Champion Excalibur, when you can use your warrior monsters to make it, it helps, especially. 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Daigusta Morale, 1 number 41 Baguska, 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 number 39 Utopia, and 1 Utopia the Lightning for those plays, especially with the light monster options we run in the deck. Just having Honest as that added backup is really great for sure. And for the Link monsters, I run 1 Isolde, 2 Tales of the Noble Knight, 1 Hippo Shenangan, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Borreload Dragon. One of the big plays I do like for the Isolde, we don't really run it for the equip plays we have in the deck, but just being able to go for, let's say, the 2 warriors that we have out on the field. If we link for the level 3s, let's say we weren't able to search out our Silent Swordsman, relying on Isolde, 2 Tales of the Noble Knight, to search it out. You can't summon it on the turn that you add it, but if the Isolde survives for the next turn, you can tribute the Isolde and then get out the Silent Swordsman you had on the field. Just being an easier, another additional search option for the card if you didn't open up any of the other search we have in the deck, setting up the Silent Sword Slash in the graveyard or any of the other plays. But once again, also relying on Silent Paladin for another play, being able to normal summon it, search out whichever of the silent cards you have, and then going for the double summon play. And then most of the time, if you summon it, if you don't want to go for the Tribute Magician play, you can rely on these two cards for an extra deck play, depending on the Exceed monster you wanted to go for that play, or even just using these cards for a link summon of another monster. And then once they're set up in the graveyard, if you have cards like, let's say, Monster Reborn, to special summon back the monster onto the field, you'll also have a boosted up, powered up Silent Magician thanks to Hippo Shenengen. And if the Hippo Shenengen leaves the field, you can add back the Silent Paladin back to your hand also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It's definitely a fun deck. I had a lot more fun, I would say, playing this deck since I had both the Silent Magician and the Silent Swordsman options to go into than, you know, just having the two separate decks all together to run. Definitely recommend giving it a try and also trying out the Royal Decree play instead of the Call by the Grave play if you want just a more lockdown variant of the deck in total. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.